Welcome. This is Elizabeth Creamer. If some of you recognize my name, it's probably mostly in terms of mixed methods. I am a research methodologist who specializes in writing about mixed methods, but it's mixed methods with a qualitative bent. My purpose, though, in these YouTubes is not to talk about how to do research, but to talk about some of the unspoken practices in academia, taking advantage of what has been a 35-year career as a faculty member at a research university. I wanted to create some videos about what people might call the hidden curriculum. These are the kinds of things that you typically learn talking to a mentor, someone that is fairly senior, has a lot of experiences. And I know now with the pandemic that that's more and more difficult to do. So this is some of the things people don't really talk about. Somehow you're expected to know. My audience is people who are interested in academic careers, who are starting academic careers. I envision about 6 or 7 of these. And this first one I'm talking about using citations and a reference list strategically. So citations are part of the core of scholarship for those who are in positions where writing and research are prioritized. So it matters who you cite and how you are cited. So part of what I want to do is help you be strategic about your own citing practices. So citing other people, as you probably well know, putting the name of an article in a reference list is part of crediting and respecting other people's ideas. Most of your work starts with other ideas from other places and then you build on it. So as you know, or maybe don't know, you may have heard the expression impact factor. Well, an individual's impact factor is influenced by the journal an article is published. A journal has an impact factor. But it's really a measure of the frequency of which your article appears in other people's reference lists. So the Institute of Scientific Information categorizes every single reference that you put in your reference list. The longer your reference list, the more credit you're giving, perhaps the more you're helping other people. So one of the surprising things that I dedicated an entire book to in 1995 is that every field has a small number of prolific writers who get the lion's share of citations. This is, to me, the rich getting richer. By small, I mean probably no more than a dozen. Often the prolific writers in a field can be narrowed to less than half a dozen people who receive the lion's share of references. Prolific writers are largely white men. They're still largely white men because it's a product of someone being in a career a long time and doing a lot of writing. Prolific writers elevate their citation counts, purposely or not, by at least 50%. So 50% of citations are self-citations. Women cite women in their articles much more frequently than men cite women. Gender and race or ethnicity are also a big part of citation practices, a big part of why prolific authors get so much attention. So one of my goals is to encourage you to be both deliberate and political in recognizing diversity in your citation practices. This is a way that you can contribute to equity in academia. A diverse reference list reveals familiarity with diverse perspectives. Not overly citing a single person on everything you have to say about mixed methods. You're deliberately seeking to read in ways that embrace people with different ideas. Another way that you can be conscious or deliberate about your citation practice is to be conscious about including authors from outside of the U.S. There are hubs of interest in mixed method all over the world, in New Zealand, in Australia, in Japan, in Spain, UK, Germany, and emerging in China. This includes, you're also in this deliberateness about a citation. I also encourage you to include emerging scholars as well-established ones whose work is widely recognized. So anytime you cite, you cite or include someone in a reference list. This is a measure of your reading, how much you have read, how much you know about a topic. Give yourself some credit. When I was first starting an academic career, and I was and still am a feminist, I was very suspicious of self-citing, thinking it was self-aggrandizement. Well, maybe it is. Maybe that's not so bad. Self-citing helps a reader by documenting how you've developed an idea over several publications. So it helps a reader who might be interested in something you've written about to say, oh, well, I also wrote more about that in this other publication, and here's more information about that. Teachers, I encourage you to assign your own articles. I did not do that in my career, and I think now that was very naive. If you don't include articles in your classes, your own articles that are relevant, who is going to do that? So I said already, generic cites to one person in grounded theory, for instance, if Glaser and Strauss, 1967, are the only reference to grounded theory that appears in your reference list, first of all, it suggests your knowledge is extremely dated and that it is very narrowly focused on just one or two authors. Citing as a political act. I've already mentioned this. This is a role authors can play in promoting equity in academe. Editors use your reference list to pick reviewers sometimes. So therefore, by citing people you're familiar with whose work is compatible with yours, you're pointing the editor sometime to reviewers who be interested in reading your article and who share some of your views. Within limits, this is no place to be modest. It's appropriate to cite yourself when you have written about something before or you're describing a project that is also addressed in other publications. Be proactive. Cite your friends and colleagues that you know. Expand your reference list. That is usually not in the word count. I meant these are short to be short, so I'm wrapping up on this one. My next one is going to be, how do you avoid self-plagiarizing? I hope this has been helpful, and I hope you'll be among my audience in the future.